Hey, True Believers, Englentine here with a top 10 list of the worst Marvel comics to come out in 2018. Now, I know there's some people who say, oh, well, all Marvel comics is bad. No, they're not. And saying so kills the conversation, okay? There's a little more nuance to it, Bubba. Let's kind of calm down and get into the discussion here. That being said, when I was looking for the best of, I found 20. Like legitimately good Marvel comics that I could recommend easily. When I looked for the bad, I found 40-something that I had to whittle down to 10, but I couldn't, so I decided, okay, I'll do runner-ups. And so I basically put them in order. So this is the top 15. But alrighty, so let's start with the runner-ups, the ones that weren't quite bad enough to make it into the top 10, which, like I said, it just turns it into a top 15. At number 15 is Spider-Man 2. Now, here's the thing. When I saw this on the... I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that came out, didn't it? Legitimately, I forgot this came out. I had to look at it to be reminded what it was. I can't even remember what happened in it. That's how bad this was. I remember when I read it, I was like, wow, this is kind of boring. Which, in my opinion, is a huge crime in and of itself. And it is kind of funny to see that this is how Miles Morales began his year, and yet when he ended his year with Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. So I'm glad at least he ended well, but this is not a title to pick up. There's no way in heck I could ever recommend Spider-Man 2. And the next runner-up, or number 14, depending how you're keeping track on this, is Tony Stark Iron Man. And I know what you're saying, oh my gosh, but this is such a great book. It's got Dan Slott. How can it be bad? Well, first of all, he could not understand who Tony Stark is or is supposed to be or who the fan wants him to be. And instead, write him as a teenager? Even though, didn't we go through that whole teenage Tony Stark phase a while back and it didn't exactly fit? I'm just saying. But this one is like a tech genius, or at least what a teenager would think a tech genius would be. And, of course, you've got the anime, or the manga, excuse me, Fin Fang Foom Buster thing. I don't know. After 3 issues, I stopped. I was like, okay, this is not getting any better, and I abandoned ship on this one. Alrighty, the next runner-up, or number 13, is Spider-Geddon. This is the crossover nobody wanted, or at least I didn't. I didn't even like the first one, the Spider-Verse. I read it, and I was like, wow, this is a mess. And it was. It was more like, it was a gimmick. Oh, let's get all of the Spider-Man that were ever in a what if or whatever or what the, and let's put them into one book. And that was the gimmick. And this is just replaying that particular gimmick. It worked into the Spider-Verse, but when you spread it out, not just over this central miniseries, but a whole bunch of side quests, it's like, guys, enough. Isn't this supposed to be the year you were taking a break on the big crossover events? And this isn't even the worst of the big crossover events. That's coming up. At number 12, the next runner-up is Moon Knight. Now, here's the thing. I'm starting to believe that the reason why I liked Bemis's run in the beginning was that I was riding a Moon Knight high from the previous series. And it carried for a few issues until I realized, yeah, there's not much to this except he likes to be weird, and it's weirdness for weirdness sake, and I'm sorry, that just doesn't sell for me. If you're going to do something, there has to be a proper explanation for it, and it better be good. Unfortunately, this was a title that got worse as it went, and at some points it was just illegible. I mean, not literally, obviously, but it was just, I guess incomprehensible would be the proper word for it. It just turned to mush. So by this, the last issue of Moon Knight, I was not sad to see it go. The final runner-up is the Unstoppable Wasp and the Agents of Girl. Anyway, this, I know a lot of people, oh my gosh, how can this not be in the top 10 because it's so horrible bad? And you could see it like, wow, those next 10 must be really, really bad. But here's the saving grace. I read this and no, I didn't like it. I thought it was really cheesy, really bad. But I also understood one thing. I am not its audience. This is a book specifically written for tweens. This is a book specifically written for not only tweens, but little teenage girls. So I am not the audience, so of course I'm not going to like this one as much as, say, a teenage girl who hit her head repeatedly. Any teenage girl worth their salt and as intelligent as they want these characters to be would read this tripe and go, wow, that's pandering to the worst degree, and shut it off as quick as we do. So I just spent 5 minutes talking about the runners-up, so this may be a longer video than what I thought. Anyway, here we go. Top 10 worst comic books from Marvel Comics in the year 2018, and here is number 10. Infinity Wars. You know what? Actually, just say Infinity, because we've been dealing with this for an entire year now, and I'm done. I'm sorry. Infinity Countdown, Infinity Amalgams, Infinity Wars, Infinity, done. Stop it with Infinity. It's horrible. The crossover, you said you're not going to be doing them, and then you do a freaking crossover the last damn year? It's time to freaking stop. I like the movie, but the comic book has way outstayed its welcome. And it's gotten to the point where, what the f is going on? I read it. I read it all. It doesn't make sense, and it's no good. At least if you're going to make something that complicated, have a decent ending to it. No. There's nothing good about Infinity Wars, and what's worse is this isn't even the worst of all the crossovers that happened in 2018. Number 9. X-Men Red. This is on a lot of people's favorite lists, so I'm a little bit of a standout on this one. I have to tell you, wow, what happened to Jean Grey? Who's the bad guy? I mean, okay, and I'm not talking about they're all trying to act like Wolverine, because that happens quite a bit in X books. You know, a bad writer wants to write every character as if they're the tough one. But Jean Grey, the whole X-Men Red thing is kind of like, are you sure you're the bad guy? You shut down the economy of a country? What? It's just, I don't know. And yes, I did see the scene where Sentinel was taken down by mean tweets. This is not a good book, gang. Just not. I'm sorry for those of you who like this one. I'm not one of them. I would like to see a proper Jean Grey written. I would like to see a proper Nightcrawler written. This just doesn't do it for me. Number 8. Hunt for Wolverine, Mystery in Madripoor. Holy crap. First of all, Hunt for Wolverine was bad. It was really bad. Not only was it bad, it was a waste of time. Just get to the, hey, Wolverine lives bit. This, however, is a crossover just because they wanted titles out there. And in this case, man, what a bunch of people you don't want to spend time with. How poorly written are all of them. And yes, they're walking in a freaking Mighty Ducks triangle with the one of them going, let's do this. We're going to dinner. That's what we're doing. Let's do this. Good Lord, this book was bad. The whole series, The Hunt for Wolverine, was bad. But Mystery in Madripoor, I'm pointing out as the worst of the freaking worst of it. Number 7. Venomized. Now, I don't know if you count it as a crossover. I do, so this, in my opinion, is the worst crossover of the year. If you don't, then I guess it would be Hunt for Red Wolverine. That would be yours. This is also the year that Marvel turned into freaking Oprah Winfrey with symbiotes. You get a symbiote. You get a symbiote. We all get symbiotes. As if there's no consequence, if there's no side effect. There should be something inherently bad about a symbiote attaching you. I remember in the beginning it drained Peter. Like he felt tired all of the time because the symbiote would be active with him when he was sleeping. It should be something like that. But no. I don't know. This and the Nom book kind of turned me off of Venom, so I'm kind of mad at Donny Cates for writing a really good Venom book that makes me want to read it. Number 6. The Life of Captain Marvel is just one more chapter of Marvel Comics trying to sell us on the fact that Captain Marvel is the most important hero in the Marvel Universe, which I actually get yelled at when I point out the fact that, no, we're the ones that will tell you. You don't get to tell us who's the more important. We'll tell you. That's why Spider-Man ended up being so big, is because readers loved him. As far as this, it's another one of those everything you thought you knew is wrong. We're rewriting the origin story, and it's a slice of life bit. This scene right here where it's like, but Carol, you're my best friend since you tried to and almost succeeded in killing me. No, I'm not buying it. I didn't buy this scene. A lot of it comes off as insincere. It's just one more person not being able to play in the sandbox with everybody else, so they take the character and run off to do their own thing. And ultimately, and this is the worst part about it, it was dull as hell. Number 5. Funny thing about Doctor Strange, when I was culling together all of the books I thought were really bad, the Doctor Strange proper series, written by Mark Waid, was in it. But ultimately, it fell outside of the top 10 and the 5 runner-ups. However, I cannot get past how horribly drawn and horribly written Doctor Strange Damnation was. There are books where you can read and you go, okay, you know what? I understand it's not there yet, but I see potential. And you can read on even though the first issue doesn't grab you as much. This, almost from the beginning, turned me off. It was almost just, you know what? Doctor Strange is written like an idiot in this book, and I don't like idiot Doctor Strange. I'm washing my hands of it, and I am out. Number 4. Iceman, the second series from Sanaa Grace. Now, let's face it, they're never going to make Bobby Drake the same old Bobby Drake that we know for 50 years, which I think the fact that they didn't use a gay character to write these stories, one that had already been previously established as gay, is bad. But this is what we get, and Sanaa Grace writes them poorly. And every time I point that out to a Marvel fan or to another Marvel writer or something, they always say the same thing. But Sanaa Grace is gay, and yet here we are. He just cannot write gay characters. Bobby Drake is 30 years old. He's being written like a 16-year-old boy, or like I should say, a biker gang from the 1980s would think a 16-year-old gay character would act like. It's offensive. It's offensive to me. It's offensive to gay people that I know that watch my videos. It's pure offensive. And I would actually like to see how this book would go in the hands of a better writer. Number 3. Dazzler, X-Song. And this one's a mess. This book is a huge mess. Now, Mags Visagia wrote this, and Mags has one story. And I thought she was going to tell the story well with Eternity Girl over at DC. But here, from the get-go, it's a mess. See, and the problem is the same thing with Iceman. The mutants are already the allegory. See, they think mutants is just an allegory for being a mutant. No, it's being different, whether you're teen, whether you're gay, whether you are fat, whether you're too skinny. It doesn't matter. Whatever you are, you fit into the X-Men category. Adding more onto it just muddles the message. It gets lost in the shuffle. Add to that some of the worst art you've seen in comic books. It was dumpster fire. This thing was dead on arrival. Number 2, the runner-up for worst comic book of the year is X-Men Black Mojo. Wow. Okay, first of all, the whole X-Men Black line was the comic book equivalent of McSushi. I can just imagine that would be incredibly bad. But holy Toledo, this was bad. Well, okay, so I have always said I like story before politics. You know, if you bury the politics within the story, make it, like I said in the Dazzler review, an allegory. If you do that, then fine. If you lay it on thick, you could tell that the book was written because you had this message and you wanted to tell it, so you used this character. And in this case, this message, they turned Mojo into basically soy boy. I don't even like the term soy boy. I'm done with that term, except for that's what they turned Mojo into. And it just doesn't fit the character. And I think that's what hurts this book the worst, is they did not respect the character for the story they were trying to tell. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Englentine, how can anything be worse than that? X-Men Black was horrible, but Mojo, that was the worst of the worst. How can anything be there? And I say, sirs and madams, I give to you the wonderful and beautiful art of Javier Rodriguez, mixed with the poetic prose of Saladin Ahmed, to create the #1 worst Marvel comic of 2018. The Exiles, ladies and gentlemen, the worst comic book produced by Marvel Comics this year. I am telling you, there's nothing good about it. From the point where they made, and I know this happened in another book, but they used them here. Nick Fury's a freaking Watcher. They have, what is that, a Sum Wolverine? Very manly Ms. Marvel. This was god-awfully written. But that's not the worst part. The worst part was the art. The art was horrible. It's people grew and shrunk from panel to panel. And I'm not even talking about just vertically. It was a mess all around, and it was a poorly constructed idea. No, actually, it was a good idea that was poorly executed. The whole thing about realities dissolving and people going from one to the other, trying to save each other, save people, that was brilliant. I loved it back in the 1980s when it was called Crisis on Infinite Earths, but here it was just handled so freaking poorly that, ladies and gentlemen, if there's one book I would literally tell you do not pick up. Like if you are reaching for this book and somebody just slaps you in the face to stop you, that's a good friend. That's all I'm saying. So those are my top 10 choices. 15 if you want to count the runners-up. But what did you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did I put on the list that you would not have? And what did I leave off the list that you think deserves to be on the worst of Marvel Comics? And don't say all or any. I'm trying to have a conversation here. Let's talk. Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, by all means, please click like, share, get word out about the channel, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't done it already. Hit notification bell so you get notified if YouTube decides to do their job that week. And don't forget to go on over to Patreon or Ko-Fi, drop $1 in the till. Helps keep the lights on, helps keep making videos for you. Like, thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.